They said no one could help him. The doctors failed. The medicines failed. Even hope itself seemed to fail. The millionaire's son would live in darkness forever. But when a black maid, overlooked, ignored, and mocked, dared to rub his eyes, something happened that left even the proudest men trembling. It was impossible. But it was real. The Hawthorne estate was a monument to wealth. Marble floors polished like mirrors, chandeliers dripping with crystal, fountains singing in courtyards, everything screamed power, but in the middle of that empire was silence. Daniel Hawthorne, the only son of Mr. Richard Hawthorne, had lived 17 years in darkness, blind since infancy. Daniel knew the weight of shadows better than the warmth of light. He had never seen the blue of the sky, never known the green of spring, never looked into his own reflection. Doctors had come from every corner of the world. Famous specialists, men with awards and titles, all paid more than most families earned in lifetimes. They arrived with hope in their voices and left with shame in their eyes. Nothing can be done, they always said, and Richard Hawthorne, the proud millionaire, grew harder with every failure. Among the staff who worked in the mansion was Rosa, a black maid in her 40s. She was quiet, steady, and always working. To most, she was invisible. To Mr. Hawthorne, she was just another pair of hands, but to Daniel, she was different. Rosa never paid him. She never spoke in that careful, shallow tone others used. Instead, she painted the world for him with her words. On rainy afternoons, she would sit beside him by the window and say, "Daniel." The drops slide down the glass like tiny rivers racing each other. When the fire burned in the winter, she would whisper, "The flames are dancing, tall. Wild dancers wearing dresses of orange and gold." Through her voice, Daniel saw. He once told her, "Rosa, you give me colors. My father gives me silence." Her eyes filled with tears. But she never let him know. One evening, after yet another failed treatment, Richard burst into Daniel's room. His voice thundered against the walls. "Another doctor wasted my time. Another fortune thrown into the fire. I'm surrounded by incompetence." Daniel sat quietly, but Rosa stepped forward. "Sir, perhaps what your son needs isn't just in medicine." Richard's face turned red. "And what would you know about it? You scrub floors. Don't you dare speak about things you don't understand." Daniel flinched. But Rosa stood firm, her voice trembling yet steady. "I may not have riches, sir, but I have faith. And sometimes faith sees further than science." Richard scoffed, storming out, leaving only silence behind. Daniel whispered, "Rosa, don't listen to him. You're the only one who sees me." That night, Rosa tossed in her bed. She dreamed of her grandmother, a healer in the deep South. A woman who used herbs, oils, and whispered prayers. In the dream, her grandmother said, "Child, there are hands that carry light. The world may mock you, but light doesn't need permission to shine." Rosa woke with tears on her cheeks and a certainty in her chest. The next afternoon, Daniel sat by the window, listening to birds. Rosa approached nervously, carrying a bowl of warm water with crushed herbs floating inside. "Daniel," she whispered, "may I try something? It may sound foolish, but I feel I must." Daniel turned toward her voice. His sightless eyes held trust. "Rosa, you've never hurt me. If you believe, then so do I." Her hands trembled as she dipped the cloth into the water. Just as Rosa pressed the cloth to Daniel's eyes, Richard stormed in. "What are you doing?" He roared, his face twisted with rage. "Sir," Rosa said, voice steady but shaking inside, "I only wish to help. You dare touch my son's face with your nonsense? You think rubbing herbs and saying prayers will fix what the greatest doctors in the world could not?" Daniel's voice, usually quiet, rang out like a bell. "Father, let her try. Please, for me." The room froze. Richard stared at his son, shocked. Daniel had never spoken with such strength. Against his pride, he allowed it. Rosa rubbed the cloth gently, whispering prayers only she understood. Her hand shook, but her faith did not. And then Daniel gasped out at first. Only light. Blinding, burning light that pierced the darkness he had known all his life. He cried out, clutching her hands. Then shadows, shapes, movement. He blinked, tears streaming down his cheeks. And then, for the first time, faces, his father's pale skin, twisted in disbelief. Rosa's dark, tear-streaked face hovering inches from his own. I can see, Daniel whispered. His voice cracked. Rosa. I can see you. The room spun with silence. Richard staggered back, dropping into a chair. Unable to breathe. The impossible had happened. For the first time. Richard Hawthorne, the man who believed money could solve anything, was broken. He looked at Rosa, his lips trembling. The woman he never noticed, never respected, had done what no fortune could. Daniel reached for her hands, still wet with the herbs. Rosa, you gave me colors with your words. Now you've given me sight with your hands. Richard lowered his head. Pride had kept him blind. The days that followed were filled with awe. Doctors swarmed, trying to explain. Some said it was coincidence. Some whispered it was a miracle. None could deny what they saw. Richard changed. Slowly at first, but surely. He no longer barked orders at Rosa. He invited her to sit at the table. He raised her wages, but more than that, he raised his respect. Daniel clung to her like a second mother. His first sight of the world was not of riches, nor chandeliers, nor marble. It was the weathered, gentle face of the woman who believed when no one else did. Years passed. Daniel grew into a man who carried both vision and humility. One evening, at a public speech, he stood before hundreds. My life began. He said, not the day I was born, but the day I opened my eyes. And I owe that to Rosa, the woman the world overlooked. Doctors said impossible. My father's fortune said hopeless. But Rosa's faith whispered, try once more. And because she did, I saw. The audience rose in thunderous applause. In the front row. Richard Hawthorne wiped tears from his eyes. Beside him, Rosa sat quietly, her hands folded, tears glistening. She had not just rubbed his eyes. She had opened his soul, his father's pride, and the world's blindness.